G'day fans of the NPL, it is the Verd back with you again for the Week 5 Power Rankings, up on time for once, who would have thought, and I am not alone, making his glorious return. It's like you never missed him, guys. It's Parker.
Hey, I'm finally back. I have a new mic. Everything is finally good. I've been itching to record. I've really hated being away from my analyst positions, and I'm so happy to be back.
Oh man, we are so glad to have you back. I mean, the amount of trash people I had doing the recordings with me, I'm kidding. I did appreciate people helping me out when we needed it, but it is good to have Parker back, and we are both itching to get into the power rankings this week, because obviously the last couple of weeks a lot of things have changed, and going into week 5, I think this is the closest and the most similar our rankings have been for the entire season, so I'm really keen.
It's very crazy how similar our rankings are. I don't think I've ever seen them this similar.
I mean, right away, when we look at the bottom 4 teams currently as it stands, again, the exact same bottom 3. Honestly, for me, nothing's really changed since last week. These were the guys that I said with our before. They were in a group of 3, and if they wanted to try and move out of this group of 3, they were going to need a win, and none of them did. The Leopards and the Sunflora both still...
the Metangs have gotten a win.
No, but as in
As in, like, this week?
Yeah, this week.
5?
So I was talking, I was talking with Aberforth about it last week, and we were saying that, there's a bit of a gap between these 3 teams and the rest of them, and so they would need a win to try and push out of that gap, but unfortunately, all of them lost. The Metangs are 1-4, Sunflora and Leopards are both 0-5, which obviously isn't ideal at this point of the season, especially with divisional matches happening, so they're going to need to really pick themselves up and try and consolidate some wins later on. Anything you really want to touch on with those 3 teams at all?
No, I don't really see much to talk about. Like you said, they're kind of in their own little group, and they need to start getting some wins if they want to get out of there, basically.
Yeah, and I think definitely now I feel they're starting to become another little subgroup just chilling below them that we're going to discuss fully in a second, but just to cover the 2 teams that we both have in the bottom 4 as well. We've kind of flipped the 2 that we kind of expected to be where they were. I have the Jersey Dwebbles, you have the San Antonio Swamperts. So as we talk about these 2 teams, we're going to kind of move through also to the next group of rankings. But the reason why I have the Dwebbles below the Swamperts is because it's not that I didn't think Cloud played well against Trev. I think he played very, very well, and the Hydro Pump miss with Rotom on, I believe it was the Hooper sub, was really unfortunate, because depending on how Cloud played around that, it could have been a win for him. It was very, very close though. It was a very difficult one to call, and I feel that the Swamperts have had 2 very solid wins. Yes, they also lost this week, but I just feel over the season so far the Swamperts have been a more competitive team, and I want to see a bit more from Cloud and the Dwebbles, because I know Cloud very well from battling with him in other leagues, and I know that he can definitely do better than this, and so I'm hoping next week he can really deliver and lift himself up in this position. But do you want to talk a little bit why you have the Swamperts below them?
Yes, I may be mistaken on this. I'm not 100% sure, but I think ever since the new replacement coach has come in, have they not gotten a win since then? Am I correct on that?
You might be. I mean, I think that they were definitely 2-2 last week. I don't know if they were 2-1 or 1-2, so potentially they could have got a win. I actually cannot remember, but we'll go off the premise that they haven't, and you can just go from there.
Yeah, so I'm not sure Danicki has gotten a win yet for this team, and that's my biggest problem if he hasn't. Sorry for being unsure on this. I'm still a little rusty. I haven't really been keeping up as much with the goings on in the league. I still do keep up with them, but not as much as when I was consistently an analyst, and now that I'm suddenly back, I'm just kind of throwing myself in. So yeah, sorry for not being 100% sure on the facts, but yeah, basically if Danicki has not gotten a win, I feel like he hasn't really proved himself to be a competitor yet. If Dallas has gotten the wins, then it's ranking by the person who is playing, and I'm not sure that the person who's playing is doing very well at the moment.
That's fair enough. And I guess, like, I just feel that both of those teams are very just in the same boat. They're both just kind of, now they're both 2 and 3, and they're facing the possibility of being 2 and 4, which isn't obviously ideal. So I feel like they're both kind of area. But as you guys can see, we are into now the next group of 4, and one team that we both have that has moved up a little bit out of the bottom 4 and into 11th for both of us is the Los Angeles Nido Kings. Danza had a pretty solid win. Do you want to talk about how he went in that battle?
Let me see who he faced. It was the Phoenix Sunflora. Yes, he got a 5-0 there, and I think the differential itself really explains how well Danza did in that battle. 5-0 is a very solid win. Of course, the Phoenix Sunflora are winless at the moment, but it's still a good win nonetheless to get a 5-0. So
I think the big thing about it too, for Danza's point of view, is that a lot of his losses this season have been quite narrow, and so being able to get a huge win is going to really propel his differential, because the times that he has won, there have been big differentials, so it kind of mitigates the losses a little bit to the point where he's 2 and 3, but he's getting, I think he's getting close to, already has that positive differential, which for a team that has lost more games than they've won is really important when it comes to him trying to move up in his division. So I think for him, that's a really solid result. Probably not enough to move him any higher in the rankings, but I still think it's a solid result nevertheless. Moving on from that, again, two teams that we have kind of flipped on this little part of the rankings. I have the Florida Feraligators a little bit higher than the Phoenix Sunkern. I just feel that I think both teams now are 3 and 2. And I feel like the Feraligators win was just a very, very solid performance. I believe they beat the Arizona Carvanas this week. Pretty sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is correct.
That is a big giant to tumble, because like the Carvanas were solid third place team for a lot of the power rankings so far, and I feel that is a huge win, and to propel them to 3 and 2 is incredibly solid. And I mean, don't get me wrong, the Phoenix Sunkern winning as well and going 3 and 2 is great for them, and it's fantastic. But I just feel I initially had the Gators above the Sunkern going into this week, so having both teams win, I didn't feel the Sunkern won well enough to put them higher than the Gators, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I understand that, but the reason I have the Gators below the Sunkern is because I believe that there was like a decent amount of hacks in that battle versus Togue, and it's not to say that the Florida Feraligators would or would not have won without that hacks, but I just think the Phoenix Sunkern have played consistently well throughout, and I just think that they deserve to be on top at the moment. But that's a very it's a very flip-floppy position. Like either one could definitely be above the other, and it wouldn't take much for me to switch them.
Yeah, definitely we're getting to the point of the season now where these wins and losses seriously matter, as it can mean the difference between you being maybe 6th place right now to dropping down to 10th just from one loss, because it is very, very close. But what we will do now is jump into a top, well, not really top, we're into top 8 now, but from 8th to 5th, we actually again have it pretty on the money. One team is a little bit different, but one thing we can definitely agree on is that the Austin Toros are currently in 8th place. They finally got another win that takes them to 2 and 3. A lot of people would be thinking, why have you put the Austin Toros 2 and 3 when the Gators and Sunkern both won as well? Why wouldn't they be better? It's safe to say Rob has had a bit of bad luck, and I feel that if things had gone his way, he could easily be either 4 and 1 or at least 3 and 2, and so I see him still being higher than the Gators and the Sunkern. I feel like against Aberforth and the Brisbane Braillies, who played exceptionally well, it was a fantastic little battle that they had, probably one of the best, but I think it actually won Battle of the Week, Game of the Week. So it was a great battle. If you guys haven't seen it, you need to go check it out. It was good to see Rob kind of, I guess, back at his best, and I think now that Aberforth's got a team that he's very comfortable with, I think both of them were playing at the peak of their game, and I couldn't put him any higher though, because I feel like every team above him is just doing better than he is, and I feel like though he's starting to get his mojo back, like we saw, in round 1 when he decimated Danza. And we have a call interruption. Give me 1 sec to get it back. Alright, sorry about that, guys. Internet did kind of cut out, but basically what I was saying is Taurus are doing well, top 8, so they just got to keep doing what they're doing. But moving on from that, what I want to know from you, Parker, is between obviously the Boston Bedoofs and the Brisbane Braylims, they're both very, very solid right now, going through. I think they are both currently, Bedoofs I think are 3-2, and the Braylooms are 2-3. So is that the main reason why you have the Bedoofs above the Braylooms?
Well, actually, I think that is part of it, but the main reason is their loss this week. That did not come from the player. That came from me. I was playing in Bedoof's place, and so basically I feel like he shouldn't be moved down for something that was my fault. That I lost that battle, and in the original version of the game before the disconnect, it looked like Bidoof was going to win. Yes, there were some real life issues with Maddie, and like the lead was chosen for him and stuff like that. But still, like, I don't really feel like I can fault Bidoof for something that's happened this week that was not his fault. So I've actually moved him up 1 spot despite the loss.
I mean, I would have done the same if the Brisbane Braylims hadn't played as well as they did against the Austin Tauros. I think I already had the Braylims above the Bedoofs going into this week, and I just felt like, both teams did lose, both were unfortunate, but I just feel like, and this isn't like an insult to you saying you played badly, you played the best that you could. It was more that Aberforth, just the way that he played, although he lost, I just felt made the better plays, and so I couldn't really drop him down as well. So it's like almost the opposite of what you're saying, is like, obviously it sucks for Bidoof and all that, but I just felt that the way that Aberforth battled, I couldn't really drop him down. But then again, it's at the point now, with especially Rob now breathing down these teams' necks, and especially the Gators and Suncones, the spots from, I'd say, 5th to about 10th are very, very tight. I think, 1 win, 1 loss definitely opens up the floodgates there. So I definitely feel like both teams, although they lost, can definitely lift their heads up and get back next week and get the result. But moving on to the final team, as part of the first half of the top 8, we have both agreed on the Atlanta Braviaries, obviously coming off a very close win against Cloud. Probably a win that even if the Hydro Pump had hit, he had. It's very contentious, but I just feel that Trev did play this one very solidly. How do you feel he went in this battle?
Yeah, I think what you said, that he played solidly. I really liked the set with the sub Nasty Plot Hoopa. I really just thought he played well overall, and there isn't really much more to it than that. Yes, the miss was unfortunate, but that's just something that happens in Pokemon sometimes.
And I think, like I said, it seemed from the way that it was looking after the battle and like looking through it all, that even if the hit had happened, that Trev probably would have been able to recover okay and be able to win. But then again, it's a lot of 50-50s that you can't really nail down. At the end of the day, he won the battle. There's not really much else you can say. He won the battle, he got the result, so that's just how it is. He did battle very well throughout that, and Cloud did too. It's just that when it mattered most, things worked out in Trev's favor, as they sometimes do, so it happens. But guys, we're going to wrap this one up with our top 4, and it has changed a little bit, just a little bit. I actually have taken, again, it's another one of those classic ones where I put one in a position where you put a different one, and the difference is that this week the Carvanas did lose. I know obviously it was a bit hacksy, so I can see that being your side of saying you can't really drop somebody down because they lost to hacks, but at the same time,
Yeah.
I think that Jolt, same with Aberforth and Brisbane Bombs, they did a lot of trades and switches with their teams, and I feel like Jolt's team now is incredibly solid, and the way that he's been using it lately has been incredibly effective, and the way that it's just been working out for him. I feel that right now his momentum is a lot stronger than the Carvanas, although I believe Jolt is, I want to say, I mean, is he 3-2? Pretty sure he's 3-2.
I think so. I believe
Yeah.
that is correct.
So Jolt and Togue are both 3-2. I just feel that right now Jolt is the stronger of the 3-2 there. But obviously, I'd love to hear your side of it as to the Carvanas and Staraptors.
Well, actually, I did you say they were both 3-2? Because I thought the Carvanas were 4-1.
I think the Carvanas. I don't know. Was it? I don't think that was their first loss. I think the Carvanas lost as well in week 4. I think they're back-to-back losses. That's another reason why I dropped them down. Let me just quickly check. I can also check.
No, Arizona beat Detroit week 4.
Did they? Why did I have them lower?
Yes,
That's so weird.
I'm looking at the schedule.
That is so weird. I apologize. He's 4-1. I don't know. I just still feel like Jolt's got a lot of momentum behind him. Togue has some tough matches coming up. I just feel like the Raptors are doing better, but I would like to hear your opinion too.
Yeah, I completely understand your side of the story, and this is another one of those spots that is very tentative and easily switched. But similar to Boston and Brisbane, Arizona has the better record, and like you said earlier, their battle was pretty hacksy, and like I said earlier as well, like it's hard to tell whether that hacks would have mattered in the end, but I think Togue played to the best of his ability that game, and I really just can't fault him yet. But he does kind of deserve the hacks for his draft, the Togekiss Jirachi core. So.
Yeah, it's kind of the revenge hacks right there. That's fair enough. All right, well, finishing off, it's been a pretty same old story for the last couple of weeks of the top 2. I mean, eventually one of them's got to lose, I guess, but right now it looks like neither of them are looking anywhere near losing. Obviously, the top 2 for you guys are the St. Louis Reshiram and the Sydney Sharpedos. Obviously, again, we both have them around different ways, which is fine. Like, at the end of the day, I'd be happy with either of these teams being first and second, because they are the 2 best teams in the competition. But the main reason I have the Reshiram is because there still hasn't been any definitive reason as to why I need to put the Sharpedos above them. I've always had it Reshiram, then Sharpedos the last couple of weeks, because if Maddie only just scraped through for a win and, Gypsy dominated, then sure, I'd chuck Gypsy above him, that's fine. But it's been a situation that they've both pretty much been dominating their opponents, doing everything they need to do to win, and there just hasn't really been anything from Gypsy that has said to me, okay, he is, doing just as good. They're both doing just as good as each other. It's just that I feel that isn't a definitive enough reason for me to put them above the Reshiram. There hasn't really been any big moment yet that has made me think, okay, the Sharpedos are better than the Reshiram. I think they're both fantastic, and that's why they'd both be in my top 2 easily. But I still feel that the Reshiram are the top team. But let me know why you think the Sharpedos are the top team.
Well, I think it really all comes down to like what we ranked them in week 0 and week 1. Like, you've had St. Louis number 1 throughout every single week, and I've had Sydney rank 1 ever since week 1, and in week 0 they were still only rank 3. So I think it just comes down to like we've had them at the top, and there's been no real reason to switch them because both have played like consistently very, very well. And it's hard to say there's any reason to switch them yet unless one of them loses.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. I just feel that they are easily the best 2 in the competition right now, and I feel when you look at the entire table as it stands, when you look at these power rankings, I see it in a few very distinctive groups. So there's obviously the bottom 3 of New York, Phoenix, and Detroit. Then there's another group of 3 in the Nido Kings, the Swampers, and the Dwebbles. Then there's that huge group that I would stretch from almost even the Staraptors down to the Sunkern. That's how big I feel that group is, because they're all very close to their records. And then I'd see the Sharpedos and the Reshiram being there. So that's kind of how I see the rankings right now, and I feel like
I think you can kind of split that huge group into 2 other groups, though. Like, we have the Atlanta up to the Atlanta, Arizona, and Toronto, and then like another subgroup of Boston, Brisbane, and Austin.
You could, yeah, definitely. I feel that it's definitely, but at the same time, guys, it's incredibly close. Like, it is very, very close between all these teams. Literally, one win and one loss either way can seriously change a lot of these rankings. So in order for you guys to know how your favorite team is doing, you're going to have to subscribe to the NPL channel. You're going to have to watch these videos. You're going to have to like them. And also what we'd like you guys to do is maybe comment down below if you feel we've made a mistake with the rankings, if you feel maybe, oh, this guy should have been put here, because at the end of the day, we're all for constructive criticism. This is our opinions, obviously, and we don't mind it if you feel like you don't agree with them. Also, if you want to, feel free to put your power rankings down in the comments below. And as I said in a previous video, if you would like for a guest to join Parker and I on the power rankings, down below in the comments again, let us know if there is any guests that you would like to see join us for power rankings. But Parker, welcome back, man. Thank you once again for joining me for some power rankings.
Yeah, it's so good to be back, and guests sound really fun. I hope we have some guests in the future.
Well, that will all depend on if the viewers can comment down below, but for now, guys, it is the Verd and Parker, and we will catch you guys for the Week 6 power rankings coming up, but stay tuned with the NPL.
Bye.